Why did the DLC legendaries all have to be uneven? I had to pick a side for this video. I went towards the future side for this video, so a few more future paradoxes and the past paradoxes in this one. I kind of went for a theme with the future paradoxes in this video. A world where humanity is on the brink and robot Pokemon are rising up and a small band of Pokemon are the big cause, with one single Paradoxmon standing over at the frontiers to battle against them. A lone hero. Let's start with the first DLC, the Teal Mask, as this had the most non-Paradox legendaries put into it. We're gonna start with our new little mythical, and before I get any, mythicals aren't legendaries, I don't care. That's such a dumb categorical thing to say. Legendaries are legendaries, just like how an A-Press is an A-Press. But yeah, meet Petron, the little freak who loves to make people do silly dances and have a heartbreaking story as well. The Paradox form of Petron, I wanted to play it up like how it's almost this Peach Pit inside of the core, but instead of it being a peach, it's a little toy inside of like a gacha device. Which I quickly realized in the Pokemon world would probably just be flavored as a Pokeball anyway, so now it's like a little mimic. There's something so aesthetic about how they made the toxic chains look, from the loyal free to Petron using it as an attack in-game. They all look goopy and really fun. Maybe it's the purple color for me, but I just really love drawing them, so I wanted to give them ever the slightest change for Iron Gotcha, where instead of them being chains per se, they're instead a stand-in for wires. In this future, you'd find these Pokemon around and opening them up would be this moment where like a mimic, they'd just burst out and grab onto you and take control. Maybe even doing a ridiculous little dance like the robot or the Fortnite default dance, just to really sell how bad the future truly is. I didn't want to change the actual design of Petron itself too much, as is tradition of the future Paradox Pokemon. Instead, the kind of parts of the design sticking out become a sort of pattern to frame the LCD screen for their little eyes. Looking back at it, would have been funny to make the whole thing a little Tamagotchi instead, but I'm quite happy with our mimic friend here. Iron Gotcha, the Paradox Pokemon, are Poison and Fairy type. In a certain sci-fi magazine, they speak of a machine that once dwelled within vending machines disguised as a Pokeball. Then, once free, it would take control of the unfortunate winner. The Iron Gotcha device is capable of installing a virus into mechanical Pokemon and take control of their emotions entirely. Non-mechanical people and Pokemon retain a small semblance of their personality when subjugated. It fights an endless battle with the Iron Hero for control of the population of the city it dwells in. So I did have to split the loyal free for this video. I had some fun ideas for past Paradox Pokemon for two of them, but Monkey Dory, the idea was just too good to play up. Let's push further into Mojo Jojo territory, shall we?
You're a bad monkey, Mojo.
I know. Originally my idea was for this floating giant brain robot, but it went a bit too far away from the original's design to really be a future Paradox at that point. It would have resembled my Mega Monkey Dory as well. So I thought it'd be fun for this almost toy-like robot Monkey Dory with a brain case up above, going for a sort of mad scientist Astro Boy situation. The most fun I had for this design was thinking of where to put the sick future aesthetic parts. I didn't want it to be part of the brain, as that's too organic, but instead it has cut lines all around instead. I think it would be cool if this version of the Pokemon had a new move or something that was a kind of switch out move where Iron Genius presses a button on its head and the brain case flies out and the rest of the body explodes. A shed tail-like attack or something silly. I think this is one of my favorite designs of the video and can see it lumbering about in game with its robotic movements. Iron Genius, the Paradox Pokemon, are Psychic and Ghost type. In a certain sci-fi magazine, they speak of a genius who tragically passed away during one of their experiments gone wrong. Luckily, they had prepared for this and built a machine capable of housing their brain. Society couldn't accept this new form, so they joined a group of other machine Pokemon and started to bully non-robotics, using psychic energy and superior intellect. If in trouble, Iron Genius can launch their brain into the air as an act of self-preservation. Let's do a past Paradox next, and I did this one for Fazandipity. Partly because I really wanted to make another Quetzalcoatlus, but also because of the lore of the Loyal Free and Petron apparently. Fazzy over here was butt ugly, and so it got its desires brought out to be beautiful. So I thought it'd be funny if the past version didn't really have the toxic chains in it, and instead was just this big awkward looking Uggo dinosaur. I feel like I kind of failed in making it truly ugly though. It ends up looking quite cool. The Quetzal body shape is just so cool, and maybe I didn't exactly stylize it up as much as I should have, but I think it helps sell that massive lanky build. I wanted it to almost look like it was wearing this low kimono with where the white parts stick out compared to the rest of the body. Kind of gives this sleepy I just woke up look, especially with the top of the head looking like tousled bed hair as well. Coloring it looked a bit weird with the big white area on the head, and for a while there I struggled to figure out what it needed, but it was simple, just add that black at the top of the head in. Man, Pokemon creators know what they're doing with color schemes, I tell you what. Broodwing, the Paradox Pokemon, a fairy and flying type. This ancient Pokemon seems to be related to Pheasantipity. Its large imposing form has caused many to find Broodwing quite hideous. It would fly above the land, keeping a close eye on prey to devour. Once it locks onto a target, it dive bombs down and either swallows the prey whole or uses its beak to impale the target and take it back to its nest. Broodwing seems to have a disdain for Pokemon that seem to be traditionally beautiful. It will be thrown into a frenzy and will stop at absolutely nothing to try and eviscerate the target. And for our final of the Loyal 3 was Okidogi, and this one was partially inspired by my Mega Okidogi design previously. This one would be based off the Stegosaurus alangason, which had this amazing looking bladed club tail, looking very much like those Aztec weapons. It was so cool that I kind of broke away from the not having toxic chains for it, because the idea of a toxic dog dinosaur with a poisonous club blade was almost too good an idea to skip out on. I still kind of wanted to include a bit of the pre-toxic chain Okidogi in it though, and have it be a bit of a coward. So instead of the gruff look it normally has, it's a bit scared and sticks to using their big spiky shell and tail in only the most dire of circumstances. The biggest problem with this design was trying to figure out what I'd do with the head, as I wanted to have a bit of a Rampardos-like head going on to protect it, but I didn't know what to do. I ended up setting on an almost golden dome to protect the shy Pokemon's head. I know this is a bit of a weird one, but it works in a strange way. Could join a herd with the other Dino Doggy in the past station. Cowering Mace, the Paradox Pokemon, a poison and dragon type. This ancient Pokemon seems to be related to Okidogi, although it is very passive compared to its contemporaries. What looks like spiky fur is actually a hardened shell with a poisonous spiked tail. It hates combat and will try to run when threatened. If unable to get away, Cowering Mace will turn away from the opponents and swing their tails wildly, attempting to envenom or bludgeon the enemy. The hardened plates on their heads are used more for shows of force between their own species for dominance. Jumping back to the future, we get the last of our Teal Mask DLC Pokemon with Ogerpon, the best Pokemon, best girl, my daughter, and the hero of our tale. While the world is being torn apart by the Paradox Pokemon, Iron Hero broke away from the controlling of the Iron Gotcha and rose up to become the defender of mankind. I knew what I wanted straight away, this almost Pinocchio robot lies of P sort of thing, with this round dome-like head where instead of wearing masks, Ogerpon in this form instead changes subroutines and the mask would show up on the screen instead. The sort of flesh kimono that Ogerpon wears is now this cool future apocalypse cloak that's all tattered and goes up as a hood. Makes the Iron Hero look a bit evil, but also very cool. I wanted to link Ogerpon to the others a little bit, so in this form their club is this big bat. But at first it looked a bit questionable, which I will not talk of it any further, and gave it spikes, and this was a present from the Iron Gotcha before it went rogue. Although I didn't do all the different forms because I'm only human, but each form would change the helmet display, the colours on the cloak as well as the glowing energy would coincide with each form as well. Iron Hero, the Paradox Pokemon, a steel type as well as grass, water, fire and rock subroutine type. In a certain sci-fi magazine they speak of a machine that broke away from the control of a certain Pokemon, and Iron Hero made it their mission to save humanity. It was once friends with a group of robotic Pokemon which protected each other until an unfortunate accident broke their group apart. The only keepsake from this is Iron Hero's club. By using various subroutines, Iron Hero can change its typing to help combat different situations, and its mask changes visuals too. Alright, time for our Indigo Disc legendaries. Wait, what do you mean there's only one legendary? Ah, great. Well, at least it has multiple forms. I decided to give baby Terrapagos a past form, and the big, well, slightly larger Terrapagos the future form. I'm not going to do terrestrial form as I kind of cover all the bases with the two forms here anyway, but let's start with past form. Tortoises are ancient beings anyway, that didn't change much, but I found it interesting that Terrapagos was kind of a normal Pokemon, that they're all just wiped out except for this one in Area 0, which kind of became a legendary by surrounding itself in terrestrial energy. But what if these Terrapagos just got really old? So this almost like an ancient, older version of a Terrapagos? I guess they're called Paradox Pokemon for a reason. So you know in Area 0 that tree that looked really significant and cool but ultimately was just some set dressing? Well, what if this was a Terrapagos who grew old and passed away like a burial site? So I wanted this form of Terrapagos to have this sort of crystal tree growing upon them showing their age. With all the old man dressing, we need a sort of thinning crystal hair and beard, as well as crystals upon their neck to look like those nasty wrinkle folds that tortoises have on their necks. As much as a crystal tree old man tortoise sounds quite weird and unappealing, this design actually ended up being quite the banger to me. Glittering Shell, the Paradox Pokemon, are normal and dragon type. This species seems to be related to Terrapagos in some manner. Whether or not it's a distant relative or a fully grown Terrapagos is unknown. Its shell has grown into a large glittering tree-like shape due to years of absorbing energy. This has provided Glittering Shell with an incredibly long lifespan. Certain theorists have suggested that the crystals and tree-like structures of Area 0 are actually glittering shells that have passed, and their bodies have become an important structural part of Area 0's ecosystem. Finally, we do the big form of Terrapagos, which funnily enough shows more of the baby Terrapagos anyway. I decided for this form instead for it to become a vessel for our species on the verge of extinction. The Iron Stars unit is both a cryogenic freezing device as well as a big Terrapagos mech for the little guy. I wanted the shell to instead become these LCD panels showing each of the types, surrounded by this just blast of Terra energy, infused with the future Paradox energy. It's like every gimmick rolled into one. I really do like the idea that Terrapagos in battle is just a little form sort of bolstered by the crystal and Terra energy, so it makes sense for it to just be this mech for the little guy, but much larger in this form. Maybe it isn't the craziest design, but I think it sells the future Paradox fantasy quite well anyways. Iron Stars, the Paradox Pokemon, are psychic and normal type. In a certain sci-fi magazine, they speak of a Pokemon species on the verge of extinction. So, a group of scientists built a vessel to allow it to be safe in the deepest reaches of space. It uses special energy to create a shell that provides great protection from any threat. Even if a meteorite were to get close, it would merely crumble away. The dome above Iron Stars contains the real Pokemon, who controls the main unit with their mind. However, their body has not moved in an extremely long time. And that's all I have for the video. Comment your thoughts down below and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel as it helps me a lot. Now excuse me while I go down into my deep cave and surround myself in crystal energy till some angry teens come along and catch me with a Master Ball. See you next video.
Michelle, here girl, Michelle.
Michelle? Who's this Michelle? Moko, do you...